welcome you and all to another episode of the Global Latin Factor Podcast, where we talk about Latino everything. I'm your host, Crispin Valentin. Make sure you subscribe to the channel right now. Why? You don't want to miss this episode. We have Dr. David Darrigan here on the episode to talk about his experience being a doctor in the ER and also the Kava Bar. All over the DFW, they have multiple ones. Not only that, but the alternative and the benefits of Kava in general. And now to the episode. Welcome. Thank you so welcome. Thank you for having me in your space,
Welcome.
the Kava Bar Fort Worth, Dr. Darrigan. Thank you for letting me talk to you a little bit about what you got going on, what you've done throughout your career
Absolutely.
and everything. But before we get started, though, we have something right here.
Got a Bula.
Tell me what this Bula is and what does it consist of?
So Bula consists of kava. Kava is a natural root that's been made into a drink from Fiji and Vanuatu for thousands of years.
Wow.
There used to be stigmata that maybe it wasn't safe. It's completely safe. It's not addicting, not habit forming. You think about what people say CBD does,
Right.
is what kava actually does. It makes you happy, relaxed, sociable. And so we like to use it as a replacement for alcohol, replacement for the things that make you feel good that can harm you. So
Awesome.
And those countries, they say Bula for good health, and we welcome new people to it. So yeah, Bula.
All right, Bula.
Drink a shell. There you go.
To y'all, grab yourself one. Alrighty, so we're gonna go ahead and start with a segment that I like to call Preguntas al Chile. Preguntas al Chile, pretty much you like this, you like that. You're gonna find some familiar dishes. So, are you ready?
Yes.
Tacos o tortas?
See, I'm Puerto Rican. We're not big on either of those.
Yeah.
We're
living here in Texas.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with tacos.
Tacos,
Yeah.
yeah. Corn tortilla, flour tortilla. Again, I know some of these are Mexican, but being here in
okay.
Texas.
No, it's okay. I mean, it's hard for me to pass up a fresh corn tortilla. Honestly.
I don't know if you're a foodie or not, but what about gorditas or pupusas?
Oh, papusa. So the Oak Cliff bar.
Salvadorian.
The Salvadorian next door. Every time I go there, I get a different papusa from the Salvadorian place.
Let me get you closer to the mic. Sorry about
Okay.
that, just to make sure. All right, jarritos, the flavor. What flavor do you like? There's different ones. There's like lime. There's like orange. Do you have
Lime
preference?
for
Lime?
me, always, yeah.
Okay, tostones o pasteles.
Tostones is like the everyday dish, love it. Can't go wrong with it. Got to get some salt on it. I don't like the sweet ones, the sweet plantains.
Really?
But if somebody can make a good pastel, I mean, that's like, the holiday food. So hard to make. I remember mi abuela making them in the kitchen for hours and hours. And, so I'm going to go with a good pastel.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, what about arroz con gandules o mofongo?
I can't choose between them. It's the same thing. I mean, arroz con gandules has always been my favorite. That's
Yeah.
my go-to dish with pork. But mofongo, like I remember, not growing up in Puerto Rico, but visiting growing up, and in Old San Juan, they have restaurants where you can make the mofongo yourself in the
wow.
store. And those, having that, memory with pork and pouring the garlic sauce on it. I mean, it's
Takes you back to Puerto Rico immediately.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's
Awesome.
hard to,
Agua de horchata, Jamaica, tamarindo. Have you had those flavor waters before?
Oh,
The
yeah.
Mexican?
Yeah.
Which one do you like better? Horchata, Jamaica?
Jamaica.
Jamaica?
Oh, yeah, like a little spice.
Salsa verde, salsa roja. Do you like spicy food at all?
I like a little spice, a little thing, but not too much to where I'm having to drink water to cool it down.
Absolutely. What about some hot sauce? Valentina, Tabasco, any of those?
Oh,
do
yeah.
you like?
Yeah, I love Tabasco.
Tabasco
Yeah.
sauce. Of course, I think it's obvious that you were like salsa, merengue, but is there anything particular? Let's say you hit a milestone,
Yeah.
you got a good diagnosis for a patient and you want to celebrate. What do you
little
like to
bachata.
dance?
You gotta
Bachata?
get- yeah.
Absolutely. Your favorite kava drink that you can recommend to everybody, what kava drink would that be?
Just honestly, the traditional kava. What's so cool about kava is the traditional form is
Right.
the best.
Right.
Everything else, whether it be alcohol, drugs, anything, they've always made extracts and figured out how to make things stronger and more potent by breaking it down.
Yeah.
And with kava, every time they've tried that, it doesn't work. It might taste better, but you don't feel it. The way that you feel it is the traditional root. And that's why I always recommend just traditional kava. Maybe put a little bit in it to take the taste out, but the traditional kava is the way to go.
Take me back on the reverse tolerance that you had
Yeah.
talked previously about. It's kind of neat and interesting and way different than alcohol.
Yeah, kava is kind of confusing, especially for the new person.
Right.
It's different in that the first time you drink it, you're not going to feel that overwhelming, relaxing, open sensation. it has to kind of build up in your receptors. It's the
Right.
GABA receptors that it works on. And so the first time you want to drink 8, 12, 14 ounces, but the next time you might only need 8. And then after that, 4. So you probably, can have one shell like I can and you feel relaxed. So
Right.
it's that reverse tolerance means the more often you drink it, the less amount you have to feel the effects of it.
Whenever you were looking into alternatives, is that some of the things, the receptor parts and all that of what triggered alcohol per se that you wanted to kind of sort of replace?
It was more just to be able to have that I found something that was making people happy and relaxed and was an alternative to alcohol.
Right.
Honestly, the reverse tolerance is kind of confusing, so
It
it's
is.
not the best selling point for, but it's just, we'll learn to teach people about it. It's all about education and letting them know.
That's
but,
awesome.
With alcohol, that first shot of tequila, if you've never had one, you're like, whoa, Kava's the opposite. You've got to drink it more.
I like that. So, if people don't know, you're a Latino, you're Puerto Rican. We have the Puerto Rican flag. What can you remember early age as far as, I know the food, you talked about it, but anything else interesting as far as Latino culture, the Puerto Rican culture that stands out for you as you were growing up?
It's a lot of the food that we just talked about. I have a very, very big Puerto Rican family. I myself, they call us the New York Ricans, the ones who were born here.
Yeah.
But my mom was born and raised in Puerto Rico. She met my dad in Puerto Rico. My family went through Staten Island. My mom had 14 brothers and sisters.
Wow.
So it's that classic big Catholic Puerto Rican family. And then they all moved back to Puerto Rico and kind of gone back and forth with, living on the island or living in New York. But it was always just the holidays, getting all the family together. Puerto Ricans.
Drinking the coquito,
yes, coquito.
that people usually do.
We're loud, we're proud. The family's always crazy. But it's just getting everyone together and eating.
Right.
It's just so much, food and happiness and joy with the music. You go other places, you go to a club and you hear the music, but when you're with your family and everybody turns on the music, starts dancing, eating and drinking, those are memories that, I want to reproduce for,
Absolutely.
my kids and family. It's just hard to do, it's very traditional.
Whenever you think about the first time that you ever landed on Puerto Rico, what are the first memories that come to your mind as far as being there and actually seeing everything that your parents might have talked about?
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember a lot. It was on the beach. My aunt, I say aunt because, everyone says tia, but we say
Yeah,
titi. So my
titi.
titi, she worked for the Hilton, and we were always on the different Hilton beaches.
That's nice.
And the rest, yeah, it was great. And, making friends, I didn't speak great Spanish, I spoke enough, but I always just made great friends, and we could connect as kids without even speaking, completely the same language, because
Right.
that's our culture. Everyone's welcoming and loving. And, we just spent so much time on the beach. And I remember going, to movies and watching Batman as a kid in Spanish instead of English, and just, making those connections and hanging with my cousins on the beach and,
Yeah.
just learning the traditions that I didn't have.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you're a doctor, right?
Yes.
Was that something that you were striving to do at an early age, or was it something that happened, something that you saw, somebody that inspired you that maybe want to pursue medicine?
I get asked that a lot, and I don't really remember. It is something that I always wanted to do as a kid. I was always kind of the caretaker of the immediate family,
Right.
and I wanted to, pass that on and be able to take care of everybody as an adult and take care of other people's health. And, I always, watching the shows growing up, even as a kid, I was all about ER and the different shows, and, I just loved connecting that and being able to help people without them having to go through all the hoops of getting medical care. It's so hard,
Yeah.
especially here, to get into a doctor. If you need a quick antibiotic or if you need advice, people have to go through, wait months to get into a doctor if they can
Absolutely.
afford it. And, my goal was to be able to offer my friends and family something to where, they didn't have to go through all those hoops. They could get the medical care advice from me. I did not realize how big of a job that would turn into with just my family because,
Right?
nobody Googles anymore. They just come to me. And,
Oh, wow.
and that's good, but, it's a lot of, it's labor intensive trying to, teach everybody how to be healthy. And, my family's gotten a lot older now. They, with 14, uncles and aunts,
Wow.
they're, all ranges. So now everyone's getting older and sicker, and it's a lot. So I'm blessed to be able to help them and give advice, even at the least.
Yeah. Did you ever find yourself as a young kid, us Latinos, we have a lot of home remedies and things like that. Was there
Yes.
some of
Oh,
the
yes.
ones that you were using
Oh, yes.
and still use to
Yeah.
this day?
I don't know about still use. It's starting to come back though, thankfully,
Okay.
the holistic stuff. But Mi abuela, she was always wearing the garlic around her neck, either to get rid of the cold or the evil spirits, one or the
Wow.
other. But it was a lot of the same stuff. Bengay all over. The house always
The
smelled like
Vaporu too?
Bengay. The what?
The vapor rub?
Oh yeah, vapor rub everywhere. It healed everything. Putting it on your feet, putting it on your socks, all over your chest.
Alcohol too,
Oh yeah,
rubbing on your
yeah.
feet and
A
stuff?
lot of home remedies, a lot of soup. Anytime
Yeah.
someone's sick, and I always wondered as a kid, why is this? What is the soup gonna do? But I think it kind of speaks to our Hispanic culture. It's that it might not actually do something, but the family felt like they had to do something. They
Yeah.
wanted to do something to take care of you, and that's how they take care of each other is by loving on them and giving them food and nutrition.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Then natural remedies are big.
Yes, absolutely. So whenever you are decide to go and pursue medicine,
Mm-hmm.
you go through, how challenging is it for you as a Latino going towards pursuing medicine, being there, and once you finally realize you finish everything
Yeah.
and you're ready to go and practice, how did that feel?
It's a good question. I never wanted to take anything in my life as a negative that would hamper me in some way. Growing up, I'm 43, so, I was a kid in the 80s and 90s, and there was still a lot of, racism back then, especially some of the parts of Texas I lived in. I lived in New York, Texas, and Florida growing up. And in Texas, especially West Texas, there was a time, we were getting called beaner in school, and kids weren't allowed to play with me because their parents didn't want them with the brown kid. And I use that to kind of like as a chip on my shoulder to say, like, despite what you see or think for no reason, I'm gonna make something of myself. I was the first in my family to go to college, the first to do a graduate program, so I was proud of that. But I don't want to play the victim in any sense. I don't think there was any obstacles because of my heritage. I think people use that too much as a reason not to try, not to do something. If anything, you should try to use it as an advantage. If there's a way that you can be proud and loud and use that to say, I want to be the first Latino to do this or that, you should, because doors will open.
That's great.
Yeah.
And then the work ethic, because
Yeah.
I don't know, but I feel like sometimes we have to work as
Yes,
hard twice
absolutely.
to be able to even make an impact,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah, and that's what's great about us is we're not afraid of work, and a lot of people now are. And being able to have that work ethic from a young age, and seeing everyone in your family struggle or
Right.
work, twice the amount of hours, that should motivate, to say that nothing can hold us down if we try hard enough.
When you finally take your last test, you're done, you're pretty much wrapped up the schooling. How does that feel for you to be able to do that? How does the hours, the long hours of
Yeah.
studying, staying late, trying to get the last few sentences in for the test or whatever?
Yeah.
How did it feel?
It's a lot of, what's strange is you do those tests and you don't have the results for months. So you've got months where you're waiting to see if you're gonna be board certified or get your medical license. It's a lot of relief and you're proud, but there's always that next step in medicine. You're never finished. So, once I finished residency, well, then you got $300,000 in debt you're starting to pay off.
Wow.
So it was always that next. For me, it was when I paid off the loans. And when I was finally debt-free from medicine, I could take a deep breath and be like, okay, I finally accomplished it. And it was very freeing. And the first thing I wanted to do was give back. I started giving to my mom when I was in residency. We grew up very, very poor. So for me, in 2007, I started residency, I'm an emergency physician. So I had to do 3 years after medical school of specialized training in emergency and trauma. And we get paid like teachers in residency. We
Wow.
work 100 hours a week and was getting paid $38,000 a year. And to me, I was rich. I was twice as much as we ever had growing up. So, my philosophy, even with the Kava Bars, if you've seen, we always give every month. We're giving to charities. So my first thing I wanted to do was give. So first started giving to my mom and started giving to other people, other charities, churches, and kind of continued that. I really believe the more you give, the more you receive.
Yeah, absolutely. And then as far as the hours that you
Yeah.
have to do, how do you, especially being in an emergency, right? You see all the shows, you see the things that happen. They kind of sort of romanticize it, but that's not what really happens sometimes, right?
No.
Is there any particular situation that stands out for you in addition to the long hours? First, how do you overcome those hours and manage to stay level?
Yeah.
And second, is there a particular situation that stands out to you?
The hours are a big thing. It's actually, kind of a controversial topic in medicine, the training hours, because before my generation, there was no cap. These guys were working over 100 hours a week easily.
Wow.
My group was kind of capped at 100 hours a week. I would commonly work 36 hours straight in training.
36 hours.
And one trauma hall in Parkland, just sitting there managing trauma after trauma. And it's not good for your health.
No.
And so now we're trying to balance how we train these guys, not working so hard, affecting their health, but still getting them the right training. But that's actually, when I was training that hard and working that hard in my 20s is when I was actually the most unhealthy. It's kind of crazy. We'd work 36 hours and only thing you could eat is McDonald's. So
Right.
you're not eating well, you're not exercising, you're not sleeping. So it affected your health and your family a lot. So the goal was always to get out of that, and now it's the balance. These, the docs that have worked so hard, it's hard to get out and just, take on a normal lifestyle.
I was talking to a nurse, and she was explaining to me that recently there's been more of a trend of doctors kind of ending their life. And I
Yeah.
don't know if it's very common. Is that because of the added pressure of the hours, mostly what you were doing,
Yeah.
or just in general, doctors and their hours?
It's, doctors have a high rate of suicide, especially in my field in emergency medicine. You see the worst of the worst. You see very, very sad, traumatic situations. You see children beaten to death, tortured, families torn apart from alcohol and drugs, so many different things. It becomes your world, and it's hard to associate with the outside world. So you get entrenched in all those years of school and training, and a lot of times they get out and they have nobody.
Right.
Some people go in and they're married, and the divorce rate in medical school is about 50%.
Wow.
Because of the hours. So they lose a lot of their family and friends. I just kind of popped in my head. You were saying, what's one of the, when you got done at the time, I started reconnecting with family that I hadn't talked to in 5 or 6 years because I was so busy studying. Not that I didn't want to, but you just don't have time for the outside world.
Right.
And when you transition and you're seeing those bad things and you don't have a support group, it can be daunting. And you have to learn how to take care of your mental health, or it can unfortunately lead to suicide.
So you had a particular doctor to the visit to the eye doctor and saw some cholesterol somewhere in your eye. First of all, I didn't even know you could tell there was cholesterol in your eyes. But that kind of, what shocking was to me is that being a doctor, knowing about medicine, how some of those things were not really pushed too much about your diet and your fitness.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until you had that visit and the doctor wanted you to put on some medicine that all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute, why can't you just recommend me this? Why do you want to put me on this?
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? Having them to feel like they want to push that on you.
I'm different than most doctors in that I am not all about the pharmacy train. I'm not all about whatever your symptom or illness, here's a prescription for it. What you're referring to is I've just finished residency, doing those long hours. I didn't realize I had gotten overweight. And this is important for our people because, 80% of Hispanic adults, especially males, are overweight.
Overweight?
Can you believe that?
Yeah, diabetes, heart conditions, all that.
It's rapid amongst us. And I didn't realize, it just happened slowly, that I was overweight and had some familial cholesterol problems. I went to the eye doctor for my contacts, and they said, you've got a lot of cholesterol behind your eyes. So I went to see my friend who's a primary care doctor, and he was like, yeah, let me just put you on this medicine. And I said, well, let me try to exercise.
So he was a
and
friend
get
of
it up."
yours too.
Yeah.
Wow.
Went to med school together. He was like, let's put you on this medicine. And I said, well, why don't I exercise and try to clean up my diet? And he laughed. It was like, you can't really sustain that. And I said, I'll be back in 3 months. And got in better shape. And it's been like this ever since then. I put on weight very easily, like a lot of Hispanics. Right now, I'm probably 10 pounds overweight where I need to be. But, a lot of it comes from, just the stress and the time, but also, we can talk a little bit about the food choices and,
Absolutely.
The food in our community is, it's going to add to it. I am all about health and lifestyle changes. So I highly recommend, trying to get you healthy before you start getting on medicines.
Are you still plant-based, or you
No,
still?
I stopped that.
Okay.
I've gone all different spectrums, but I tried it. I went plant-based for a while, and I felt great. I think we definitely need to incorporate way more plants into our diet. But now I'm more of a mix, heavy on the fruit and vegetables and lean meats. It was too hard to travel as much as I do and maintain it. I'm all about balance now.
Okay,
But yeah.
so break our hearts a little bit to all the Latino community. It's like, what is some of the foods that really, really, really damage us, and we really need to be
Oh
aware of?
man. Well, at least on the Puerto Rican side, I remember being a kid and going home and seeing the family. Everyone saying flaco, flaco, how skinny I was, and they
Yeah,
associated weight with health.
health. Yeah.
Yes, and I think it was because they grew up so poor, and I remember the stories from my family, the mayonnaise sandwiches, and not having any food, and so you see food as kind of a status that you're healthy.
Oh, yeah.
At least with the Puerto Rican side of my family, they saw as if you were a little overweight, a little chubby, then you had enough money. And I think they've never said it, but that's what I associated with. And I think that's the same probably for a lot of us. And the other part is, how welcoming we are with family, and food is the first thing we want to give people.
Yeah.
And you want to give foods that taste good. And the problem is all the oils, the butters, the fatty stuff, and the fatty meat and the fried foods. Here in Texas with the Tex-Mex, it's all fried.
Oh, yeah.
There's so many ways to do it
All fried.
good, without frying or using the right oils, controlling the portion sizes. And I truly believe there's a socioeconomic play in the back that we don't know about, that it's much more expensive to eat healthy than it is to not eat
Yes.
healthy. So we're already behind socioeconomically, and the foods we get just aren't as healthy. So it really takes a whole training to learn, for us to learn how to be healthy.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to say back when we were talking about med school and that eye doctor thing was they teach us nothing in medical school about nutrition.
That's wild
Nothing.
to me. That's
Nothing.
crazy to me.
Zero.
That was mind blowing to me
Yes.
when I heard you say on the interview. I was like, what do you mean? That's part of the things that go together, at least in my mind.
Yeah.
Right?
People think that the doctors are just pushing the medicines because they're getting a kickback. There's no kickbacks. We're just not taught it, and that you have to go through a holistic medical school or something. And, one of the things the administration now is trying to push is requiring nutrition in medical school. And I'm 100% for it. We spend all this time learning about biochemistry, crap that we're never going to learn. We should be learning about food and nutrition and how it affects the body.
Not to be too conspiratorial, but you think
That's
the big food industry and pharma are kind of sort of have played part on that,
Oh,
and not
yeah.
having to have
Yeah.
those things on the actual curriculum for y'all?
Yeah, I do. I wouldn't have thought that a few years ago. Definitely didn't think it in medical school. But if you know about the opioid epidemic, and if you've watched any of those movies or documentaries, that was the early 2000s. That's when I was in medical school, and I remember being taught, about OxyContin and how the terms that you hear in those shows, breakthrough pain and doubling the dose. And when you're sitting in the classroom learning that, you're not thinking, this is a conspiracy type thing. We're thinking we're learning how to help people.
Yeah.
But it's all you're taught. If that's all you're taught, that's what's in your toolbox.
Yeah.
And so we've got to give them a different toolbox.
I heard another nurse that I was talking to was telling me about the metrics that y'all have, that the pharmaceutical, not the insurance kind of does, and how that's a little bit maybe troublesome or kind of hard and difficult to be able to give somebody healthy.
Yeah.
Can you talk to me a little bit about how that works? Because that was another shocking part too. I
Yeah.
wasn't realize that happens in the medical field.
Can you a little bit more?
It's more of a, at least on her case, insurance have this particular matrix of people that they give this medicine and hoping not to come back again and fix it, but those medicines could come with side effects and things that happen.
Yeah.
But you get ding, or I don't know exactly how they do it, take points away, or I don't know exactly how it works, but that kind of affects your rating as far as like, money and things like that.
It depends on the field,
Okay.
honestly. So different fields have different metrics and ratings, like you're talking about. The problem is the insurance companies and the pharmaceuticals. They're really kind of in bed together. They have the biggest lobbying there is out there, and they're very good at pointing the blame on medical care on the doctors and the nurses. But when you look at it, it's really the insurance companies and the pharmaceuticals. They're taking all the money and they're profiting off of people getting sick. People will say that doctors are profiting off people getting sick. I don't know any doctors, and I mean this, that want people sick, that want them to keep coming back. We all went into it to want to help people. But the problem is, only way you can get help really is if you have insurance. And these insurance companies, I truly believe their business plan is to, give, not teach us about alternatives, If you look at, healthcare across the globe, they learned a lot of different things. So, keep us sick. Like you said, the side effects. So, right now we're seeing a lot of the GLP-1, the weight loss medicines. And, I've heard them say, well, let's just start giving to kids. We should put everybody on these GLP-1 inhibitors. Well, what do you learn from that? Is that now they're getting, possible cancer from it. Other kind of surgeries because they're having intestinal problems. And I do see these side effects in the ER every day. So it's a great business model for an insurer because everything that they give us makes a return customer, creates another problem.
So
Now,
two things pop to mind. First of all, I think the doctors, like you said, have the best intention to fix people, but because they teach them all by the book, and I think maybe the pharmaceutical somewhere involved with that. That's all they know.
Follow
This
the
is
money.
this is diagnosed, and this is the medicine to give them. This is diagnosed,
it.
and so on and so forth.
Even psychiatry, which is one of the biggest fields blowing up right now in a
Right.
good way, we're getting more psychiatrists. It's just prescriptions. Psychiatrists don't do counseling and therapy. They're not taught that. That's psychologists, the PhDs. You make it up to psychiatrists and they're just writing you different medicines. Those medicines are horrible. There are a lot of people that need them. And I'm not saying nothing is, 100%. Everything's 80-20 in my world. But there's a lot of people that need those. But for the most part, you put somebody on antipsychotic or antidepressant, they're on that the rest of their lives. It's very hard to come off of it, and they get those side effects that come with it. So I do think we need to completely revamp our medical care and do more of a functional medicine approach with traditional Western medicine. So our docs and our patients can have alternatives. And right now we're just so divided. Even with doctors, on these messages, Facebook groups that we have, doctors are so divided between traditional medicine, and if you say the kind of things that I'm saying now, you're blacklisted. I'm called a conspiracy theorist or, a crazy conservative because I don't believe that, kids need all these vaccines, and I don't believe that you should, right away write a cholesterol medicine, but instead get healthy. It's just very controversial, and there's no need for that. It just needs to be more of a balance to where our toolbox is expanded to natural, lifestyle modifications before you do things. But we're always going to need medicines. We're always going to need doctors. You're always going to need surgeries. But what we don't need is just the shotgun approach of the writing a prescription and putting on something for life.
Why does it make you be able to speak? Because I feel like some doctors are not able to speak as freely about going against the insurance. Not against, but just saying something negative, something not so pleasant for the insurance, and trying to play the blame game because they might have suffered consequences.
Yeah.
For you, why that's not a thing that you feel like is necessary?
I've always been very bold, I've been told. I've got a big mouth, so that's part of it. And I'm just not afraid to speak what I feel is the truth. I've just never been that kind of person. If it means something to me, if I think it's going to affect somebody else, I'll say it and deal with the consequences later. A lot of doctors have, an ego, and they feel very proud that they, went to school. They call themselves scientists, and I grew up very humble, very poor, and I've never let that change me. So when I talk about something, I know that people take what I say a little bit more serious than someone without the degree, and I just want to tell the truth of what I think.
Scientists, why scientists particularly? Because that's not doesn't align with somebody that would think of a doctor, except for knowing about.
Yeah, they say you don't know science, you don't trust the scientists. We're truly scientists at heart, and the problem with all this science.
We're gonna keep it rolling. We're gonna keep it rolling.
The problem with all the the science is you follow the money behind it. It's all heavily influenced by who is funding the studies, and for every study you can almost find an opposite one that says the exact opposite thing. So
Wow.
it's unfortunately you learn that it is heavily financially based and politically based, and it's truly hurting our country.
I heard that you were talking about that particular drug for manage your weight.
Yeah.
I heard a podcast as well talking about the food industry being able to modify the food to where it does the opposite of that whatever the drug's trying to prevent. Like try to suppress hunger,
Oh, wow.
but they're trying to, and that's just
That's
like
crazy.
evil.
It is evil, and for food, it used to be so simple. And we used to say just go along the outsides of the grocery store, don't go down the aisles. But when you kind of, I don't know what the different terms are, swallow that red pill, or
Yeah.
your mind opens up to
Yeah.
what could be going on. And you see all these, all these labels and ingredients on the back of a package. That's not real food. That's, I honestly lost my best friend because our views were so different on food. He was a health and nutritionist, and I'm a doctor, and I understand what they would say that this red dye hasn't been shown to cause this. Well, there's not a direct
Enough data,
connection.
enough time either.
Yeah, but you're eating it all day in different forms,
Right,
and drinking it,
right.
and you put that many chemicals in your system. I don't need a scientific paper or another scientist or a study to tell me that it's healthy or not. It's
Right.
not healthy. You
Right.
can't put all your these chemicals in your body and expect it not to cause something. And we usually don't figure out what has caused a cancer 50 years down the road. So by the time we're all old, we're gonna be like, oh man, all that stuff in those Doritos caused this kind of cancer. It's gonna happen. I've become really discovered my faith again the last couple of years, and there's a new movement talking about eating biblically. And really, if you look at the food that God gave us, if you stick to that and cooking in that way,
Right.
everything we need is there. We don't need packaged foods and chemicals added. It's all right there in the natural stuff. We just need to go back to our roots and eat a little more natural, and,
Yeah.
and
You won't find red 40 in there somewhere.
no, you won't.
Yeah. So is that somewhat of the reasons why you want it to be more holistic and open up to the possibility of Kava? Because I know during the pandemic, you find yourself, like a lot of us, consuming a lot more alcohol than normal, and all of a sudden you realize, hey, they're kind of making this like it's okay, like
It was
they're
normal.
glorifying
Yeah.
alcohol, so there's got to
Yeah.
be an alternative. So
Yeah.
is that kind of sort of drove you, besides the way you're already thinking about doing better as far as like being a doctor, but in general just an alternative to alcohol?
It's a lot of things, and I'm happy to share some of my story.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I want to take a step back first, okay? We're talking about the food industry. We're talking about the FDA. The FDA has, in the last couple of weeks, talked a lot about kratom and 7-hydroxy and the different problems. In New York, they've gone after Kava. I wouldn't put my medical license on the line if I didn't think if I thought Kava wasn't healthy. It's not. But they will make studies that say that it is, and they're trying to shut down Kava bars in New York. And you hear the FDA talking about that, but you don't hear them saying anything about alcohol, right?
Right.
You don't hear the FDA talking about tobacco. And so I started looking into that more. It's like, the reason they don't is because they created the ATF, alcohol and firearm thing. So,
Wow.
They don't even count alcohol as something to go over in the FDA because they made a separate industry for that we just keep quiet about it. And so it becomes very untrusting. But yes, so, for me, we talked about suicide and stress with doctors. So I started drinking, way too much. And then during the pandemic, we're all kind of locked in at home. Everything on Instagram was about cracking one open on a Monday because we don't have to go into the office. And when you start getting that reinforcement in your head, you start thinking, it's okay, everyone's doing
Everybody's doing it.
Yeah. So I started binge drinking and making a lot of bad choices. Lost people that were close to me and went down a bad path. And I'm lucky it didn't spill over into my work. But I was in Florida and learned about the Kava Bar scene there and saw this as something that could save me, number one, and then save other people. In the ER, you combine it with what I see in the ER, I see lives destroyed and families destroyed by drunk driving, by overdoses, by children getting addicted, or innocent victims and bystanders of alcohol and drugs. And it all just kind of clicked at once that I never knew that there was something natural that can help people take the edge off and relax and give them an alternative. If you look at what AA, I'm a big AA proponent, but they're very strict in that you can't have anything. Anything would be seen as, as if you're replacing alcohol with something and you're addicted to something else. And that doesn't work for everybody. Some people want to have, the edge taken off, but in a healthy way. And so this was a way that I thought this might be able to help some people who are in recovery not go back to alcohol, or have some people that were alcoholics turn to Kava. And it's turned into something much bigger than I ever suspected.
Wow.
You know, every time I come into one of my shops, I have people that thank me and they say, I've been coming to your Kava Bar for 6 months and I haven't drank in 6 months. I was an alcoholic, and you know, now I'm completely sober, and they've met this community and they're happy and healthy and sober. And so it's truly turned into something that's much bigger than, you know, just a business, but more of giving people this natural substance that God gave us and making it more known and more accessible, so they don't have to have, you know, alcohol or drugs. They've got something else that can help them that's not going to harm them. The big thing about kava and our other drinks is it doesn't affect your decision making. So with alcohol and drugs, you're going to do stupid things, say things you don't want to, have an accident driving, you know, have fights. We don't have fights in our bars. Everybody's just happy. That's all it does, is make you happy and relaxed. And you know, that's a big thing. It's something that you can walk, talk, drive. It doesn't affect your motor abilities. So I know I'm giving people something that's not going to hurt their inside and it's not going to cause them a problem at home. And it's just given so many different people a different route that they can go to enhance their life and not go down a bad path.
Yeah. So whenever people say they do their own research, it's not the same thing as a doctor doing research. You know, Google, chat, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So whenever you really dove into kava itself, what was the things that you was trying to find? It was a lot more beneficial, a lot more better things that alternatives, and more healthier.
Yeah. So you have to have put yourself in an addict's shoes. It's very easy to judge a drug addict or an alcoholic until you've had that, you know, vice or that drive. And you know, if you look at the stats of the people who become an alcoholic or a drug addict, the amount of remission is too high. So it's a lot of ups and downs, and it's very, very hard for someone who's truly addicted to stay clean forever. That, you know, we all hear about falling off the wagon or setbacks. And so to me, that meant, you know, there's got to be something that they can have that will prevent that. And that's what I think we do a lot with kava, is giving them something else to help, you know, whatever is feeding that need to not turn back to alcohol and drugs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So whenever you were thinking about opening a kava bar, why did you go with the Kava Bar specifically? Is there anything behind that?
Yeah, a little bit. It's, you know, there's so many kava bars out there, and there's a lot of catchy names, and my team and I were kind of searching for names, and there's a lot of good ones, but you know, I just wanted something basic that when people searched for it, they'd find us. And you know, they're going to search Kava Bar, whatever, and they find us in the city. I didn't want a catchy name or phrase, or to label us with anything except for kava. A lot of kava bars out there are bars that are more, you know, kratom bars, or, you know, different substances, and they say they're a kava bar. But by calling ourselves the Kava Bar, it kind of forces us to stay in the mission of kava is the main thing that we educate people on and that we try to sell. So it also keeps us honest. Yeah.
The other thing that stands out to me, as far as in general, when I've been going to the Kava Bar for about a year. And I don't know if you envision that it will turn into something among the community, a sober community, a sober movement in general. Was that something that you already had in mind, or all of a sudden you realized, oh my goodness, this is becoming something that I didn't even think it would be it? I know it's an alternative, I know it's better, but I don't realize the impact that it's making in the community, because I do a lot in the community as well.
It was a little bit of both. I knew it was going to be something that needed community involvement and would foster community. And you know, I used the term social sober from the beginning, but I didn't realize how much of a need there was for community, especially among recovering addicts, that they really need, you know, that community behind them. It's so hard, you know, when you go home alone and you're fighting those demons to not drink alcohol or do drugs. You have to have a community behind you. And if I was to rename the Kava Bar, it'd be something with community involved. So I definitely was part of the plan, but I did not realize how big it would be as far as the community aspect of it.
Now that you see it, that it's happening that way, how does that make you feel in regards to the impact that you're making in the community?
Yeah, it makes me feel really, really good. You know, the other thing I'm proud about is all the other Kava bars there are in DFW now. In Florida, there's a lot of competition between the bars, and even I can see that developing here. But if anyone really gets to know me, they'll see I want there to be as my customers to open bars. I'm proud of the other bars that are here because it's good for the community.
Right.
I can't open a bar I don't want to open a bar in every city, and I think every city needs one. So the more that this develops, I want Kava just to be one huge community to where we're helping each other, and yeah, it's turned into something really special.
So I know you say you don't want to open a bar in every city, but you've grown pretty, not I would say fast within the 3 years, 2 years.
Yeah, it's been, I don't know the exact time, but yeah, 4 bars now. I always wanted Fort Worth. I wanted the Bishop Arts Oak Cliff for the Hispanic community because it's heavily, Hispanic there. Denton was the original, and it's just the perfect place, like a small Austin, very eclectic and open-minded, and then North Dallas. So those are the 4 areas I had in mind, and I'm kind of a go-getter and want to get it all done now. And now we can kind of sit back and just grow the business and the community and not worry about expanding. So it was always the goal to have these 4 main cities.
What pushes your drive once you set your mind that helps you get it accomplished?
That's hard to explain. It's something innate, I think, because it's just something that I can't turn off. My family, my kids, they all want me to turn it off to a degree, and I'm trying to turn it, because it's the same thing with my medical career. I've got multiple medical businesses, but when I feel like there's a need and that I can do it, I just want to get it done and get it going, because I know that the way that we're going to do things the right way and help people. And so it's all about helping people in the end.
Okay, talk to a little bit of the Bishop Bar community, because sometimes it's reflected in your comments, especially people, gentrifying all this and stuff like that. You're Latino.
Yeah.
You're Latino in the community, and you've been in Dallas-based for some time. You know, you're not coming from the outside.
Yeah.
You're not a huge corporation. And then you're in the community doing a lot of work that I can see, like the yoga, the everything, all kinds of stuff.
Donations every month. Yeah.
So can you tell them that you're Latino and and you're not there today?
No, I saw those comments on the Instagram too that were gentrifying, and I was like, "Do you look at me?" Like, no, I'm 75% Puerto Rican. All I know is my Puerto Rican heritage, though my dad wasn't involved much. I'm Puerto Rican 100%, and always try to give back to and partner with the Hispanic community. My builder, Gustavo, who 100% Latin company. They're our partners in all of our bars. So, if they're trying to gentrify that area, I don't really even know what that means, honestly. I know they say it's like kind of taking down the old community and bringing in new things. I haven't seen any high rises or anything going in there. I think it's good to see, different communities getting together on Jefferson Street. Yeah. It's still 80%, 90% Latino, and I think it's always going to be that way. But we were talking about the health issues with Latinos. The same thing with the alcohol and the drugs. We're big drinkers, and for us to be able to put one in the heart of that and be the only spot that can offer something different, that's not anything negative for the community. I think it's positive, and there's no gentrifying with us. The other thing that I thought about when I read some of those comments was usually when you gentrify, you're tearing down and building something, up nice and fancy. We took an old taco bar and took down one wall, put up some paint, kept the art. There's nothing new or fancy in there. It's we just slapped down the bar and put on some paint. It wasn't a big project. So we even kept some of the Latin art that was in there, with the guy with the skull and everything, because we wanted to show, respect to the people that were there before and to the Latin communities. So if they're trying to gentrify around us, so be it. I don't know about it, though. To us, we're not gentrified.
Yeah. And tell me the effects of alcohol that people really don't understand, and that really is really damaging, whether you want it or not. Not only for your body, but in general, what you've seen on the ER.
Yeah. I could talk about this for hours. Hours. One, it's highly addictive. It destroys your brain. It's literally classified as a poison. And this is why I get so passionate about the FDA getting mad on stupid little things and allowing all these other poisons. But it's truly a poison. Every drink, they say, destroys a little bit of your brain.
Even that one glass of wine per day per se, right?
Yeah,
Also.
yeah. Now they say that's not healthy. Like we were wrong. You just got to trace the money with all that stuff. But yeah, it instantly triggers the different parts of your body that make you want to eat. It stores what you then start storing everything as fat. It's a roller coaster that goes round and round. Once you start, there's no positive health benefits. There's no positive social benefits. Let alone the when you get drunk and the things that can happen as far as damaging, someone else's life, or saying things that doing things that you would never do otherwise.
Right.
Destroying relationships. It destroys your body, destroys your liver, destroys your brain. There's a lot of talk of calling Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes now.
Yes.
And it's because of sugar and alcohol. Those two things are what's destroying the brain and contributing to the increase in Alzheimer's. So the health effects are just enormous. And an alcoholic is I'll give an example of a patient. So a lot of alcoholics are professionals. They go to work all day. You can never tell that they're drinking throughout the day, drinking vodka or something like that.
Wow.
I can spot them like this now. And I had a patient come in, and I could tell he was intoxicated. I can't remember what exactly he came in for, but I could tell he was intoxicated. I didn't ask him. His wife was with him, and I did a blood alcohol level test on him. And his alcohol level was like 300, which would be 0.3 in the 0.08 scale. So very high, walking completely normally, talking normally. And I was like, and he was 36 years old. And I thought in my head, if he can be his alcohol level is this high and no one knows he's drinking, I've got to say something. So I was telling him the results, and I mentioned, and your alcohol level is 300, about 6 times the legal limit. Tell me about that. And his wife said, no, he doesn't drink. He used to be an alcoholic. He doesn't drink anymore. And I said, well, I'm really not supposed to say that his results in front of his wife. But I knew I had to help him. And if you don't call people out sometimes, they're not going to be helped. And I said, no, he's sneaking it. I promise you. And showed her the results, and he admitted he had, vodka in different places. And I told him, just a number off the top of my head, I said, if you don't stop in 6 months, you're going to die. He didn't have any signs of liver disease at that time or spleen problems. This is one of those things where it gives me chills every time. 6 months later to the day, he came back to the ER, and I was working, and I was his doctor again. Hadn't seen him in that whole time. His stomach was out to here from the liver failure. His eyes were yellow. His skin was yellow. And the wife saw me, and I didn't recognize him, but I knew the name and the wife. And I said, what happened? And she said, well, after we were here 6 months ago, I went through the house. I found all the bottles. He admitted to everything. We tried to get him help. And, he just never stopped. And he died exactly 6 months later from that day. And, that's the part that people don't see every day. You see the commercials, you see the partying, you see the fun, but that next day, those decisions, they affect you the rest of your life. And, it's something I'm very passionate about. And it doesn't mean that I don't have a glass of wine, out every once in a while. I'm not trying to be a hypocrite, but what I really want to help is those people who are alcoholics that take it too far.
I felt alcoholism firsthand. It's like, you feel helpless at times.
Yeah.
You don't know what to say anymore. You're trying to rely on all the community you have around, family, friends, to try to kind of start to make a breakthrough for them to stop and maybe go rehab or, something. And what is the best things that you can recommend for people that are going through somebody they want them to stop? They kind of sort of, it comes from the person. They have to want to say, okay, I want to do it. But once they do, what is the best way to go about it, helping them out so they can be out?
What I remember and what I still feel is the shame. Not just the shame from the addiction, but the shame from the things you did when you were drunk. And that shame is really, really hard to deal with. And I think the best thing you could do is, number one, love them and let them know it doesn't affect your love for them.
Yeah.
And, walk with them in that shame and let them know they don't, that doesn't affect your love towards them, and they don't have to feel that shame with you. I think when you shame people and give that stigmata, they're going to go back to that bar where the people who are not going to shame them. You know,
Yeah.
it's okay to be, with them. So that, and then from the medical side, don't stop cold turkey. Alcohol is the one addiction that if you're an alcoholic and you stop cold turkey, it can kill you. It has to be tapered down or a medicine replacement, because you will have seizures and you will die in alcohol withdrawal.
Yeah, yeah, it's wild to see in like real person, and then again, I think the only thing that it worked was that part, because anything I felt it would be said the wrong way, it will be that judgment or accusing or this and that, and all of a sudden it would trigger to the bottle,
Yeah.
So I had to be very careful and loving and
Yeah.
seeing you like for whoever you are.
Yeah.
I love you. I don't care what's going on. We're gonna work together. We're gonna
Yeah.
make it happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of them, they're going to have relapses. And, that's, again, we got to remember, try not to get mad to them. It's okay to be frustrated, but, you got to be careful, because that can trigger shame and relapses. I have a couple of friends who referred their family or friends to me, alcoholics, about the bar. And I'd talk to them, I say, do you really want to stop? You really want alternatives? Okay, meet me at the Kava Bar. And I line up the kava shells, and I'm like, because I want them to feel it then, the reverse tolerance we're talking about.
Yeah.
And I want them to feel that there's something else that they can, that they can do and get relief from, and not have to turn to that bottle. And when you have, the thing about the kava is you're going to think clearly, and it's going to open you up. So that's the difference in the alcohol, is that you have something else. You can't just go cold turkey. You've got to have something, not everybody, but you got to have something that you can turn to that, even me, when I get really stressed, I might take a shell of kava, and it's almost like the smokers that, had to chew on a straw or a toothpick
Yeah.
or something, that movement that kind of settles you down, but we've given you something that's not going to harm you.
I had some of the most amazing, deep conversations here at the
Yeah.
Kava Bar. I'm saying I usually like not the mediocre, like, hey, how you doing,
Yeah,
whatever.
small
But
talk,
here,
yeah.
the small talk, it gets a little different.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever have involved with a conversation that you just drinking kava all of a sudden, just like we're
Yeah,
talking some
yeah,
deep stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what's great about it, is how it opens you up. I'm horrible at small talk. A lot of people think I'm rude or standoffish because I'm straight to the point, or I'm,
Yeah.
and I just can't do the small talk. But I want to talk about, deep things, your
Yeah.
childhood traumas, your belief in
Yeah.
God, other things, and that's Kava absolutely helps facilitate that. It's known to open people up and foster that communication.
Yeah. You did tell me, I was listening to one of your interviews, something related to your daughters, how it helped you somewhat connect and be
Yeah.
able to have a better talks with them as well, right?
Yeah, yeah. When you're so busy and you've got so much on your plate, and you're trying to play with a little kid, it can be hard having so much going through your mind about what you need to be doing, and it's hard for me, again, with the small talk. It's kind of hard to play, and I could have a shell of kava and relax, open up, and get to go
Right.
play Barbies or something like that. So yeah, I've had a lot of people tell me that too, that it's made them better parents, that it helps them play with their kids better, be more understanding. It's hard to put into words the feeling kava can give.
Yeah.
I truly think it's from God, for it to be this natural and this good, for this to affect your mind and open up your soul and spirit like it does. It's
Absolutely.
great.
We're running short on time. We're about to go here. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
everything they share. I know that you do a lot of other stuff with the medical part, but I just heard on one of the interviews that this was your passion. So I wanted to spend more time with you. Is there any questions when you were driving over here? Like, man, I wish he answers this, or I wish he asked me about this, about the things that I've done or the things that I'm passionate about. Anything that comes to mind?
No, it was more of a respect for you, being out there and promoting the Hispanic community, because we do need to stick together, so to speak. We do need to, in business, look for, if you got a choice between a different vendor,
Right.
I want to choose someone that I know is, helping somebody on the up and up. So you've done a great job at connecting communities and businesses. And I like that, how open you are about the medical side of things and wanting to know more. But for me, my main thing was, letting people know about the alternative, and two, letting other Latinos know that, chubby isn't healthy, and we've got, let's not be the outlier anymore. Let's not be 80% overweight.
Right.
It is in our control, and we've got to, lean on each other for that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Is there all the social medias? Where can they find all the Kava Bars? We're going to put them on the description. But
Okay.
if you have
Yeah.
them, you can let us know where can they find social media.
Yeah.
Mostly the Kava Bars. I don't know if you want your
Yeah.
personal one, but let me know.
Either way, I'm not a social media guy myself. Just kind of friends and family. But love for you to follow our shops and just to learn more. It's real easy on Instagram, just the Kava Bar in the city. So here, the Kava Bar Fort Worth.
Yeah.
Or we have a hub too where he has them all. So yeah, it's not about business so much for us anymore. It's about helping and giving back. So.
That's awesome. That's amazing. Any shout outs, saludos, anybody that influenced you? I know that I remember you were saying that somebody gave you a quote about the first 2 years of practice that you needed to be very careful not to get sued. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah. Yeah. So they teach us first do no harm, all these other things. But yeah, you want the first few years of your medical career, be over conservative, do extra tests if you need to, young doctors. You want to go home and sleep at night, and because if you get sued in those first few years of career, it's been shown it can derail the rest of your practice. It really affects doctors' minds. So I guess the shout out would be to everybody, don't be afraid to lean on somebody else. Don't be afraid to go to another doctor and ask for help. If you're an alcoholic, you can come in here and they'll give you my number if you need help. Don't be afraid to, don't let the shame, really keep you down. And for a shout out, I want to give one to Sober Sis, who's here right now. She's in the Fort Worth community, really helping people have an alternative to alcohol as well. So anyone who's doing that education to give something different, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Awesome. What is an important lesson that you learned in the medical field that you will tell your younger self that will help somebody else out? What would that be?
You're not going to be thanked as much as you think you are. You go in for the noble reason, and you think by saving lives. Let's say this: I will be working resuscitating somebody, sweat, tears, and we lose them, and we walk out, and the patients across the hall are yelling at us because where have you been the last hour? My ankle's still hurting. And like, that kid just died. Like, give me a second. So it's turned into a true business model about customer satisfaction and not truly about patient care as much anymore. So I'd say don't get your hopes up on that. That old school, I'm the doctor helping people, and it's turned into a business. So you've got to have that internal gratitude and internal satisfaction. Don't look for it from the patients.
How do you approach mental healthness for yourself as far as the things that you get to see? I was a veteran. Yeah. I got deployed. Yeah. Had problems when I came back with alcohol for some of the reasons that are obvious. But for yourself, how do you maintain ground? How do you keep yourself good after seeing certain things that normal people wouldn't see?
So I went through a really rough spot for a long time, and part of it was the alcohol, part of it was childhood trauma coming back up. I did therapy. That's another thing we need to be more open about is going to therapy, especially men, Latino men, the machismo. We think we don't need any help from the doctor, or we don't need to talk to a therapist, but a lot of us do. And so being open to therapy and the different treatment modalities in therapy, that got me about 80% where I needed to be. And then after that, I was still searching for that peace inside and that last part, and submitting myself to God was the rest,
Awesome.
So, look for the self-help books, talk to a therapist, and talk to your Lord and Savior.
Okay. Usually when I wake up throughout my day, I ask, I'm not immortal. I am mortal and I will die one day. Not to scare me, terrorize me, anything. More of like, I'm not here forever and I need to do things. It makes me do stuff. With that, I wish you a long, prosperous life. Thanks. After everything's said and done, what do you want people to think and feel about your life?
Oh, man. I hope that, you tend to remember the bad more than the good. Sports, business, people, anything, we're always looking for the bad. So that's what seems to last in memories more. I hope with me that they remember the good more than the bad. That I gave back enough, that I did enough good deeds, that that they were, somebody was helped by me, and forgive the bad things from anybody, and try to take the good from what they brought.
You think healing for you is your calling, or do you still trying to figure out that part for you?
I don't know. I think it's okay to say you don't know sometimes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It develops a lot, throughout what season you are in your life. It always has to do with helping in some way and giving back. But sometimes I need help too, and so we all need to find what that individual calling is for that season of your life, and find people that are going to foster it. You are who you surround yourself with.
Absolutely.
Remember that. So if you're trying to do something or be something, make sure who you're around is fostering that.
Okay, Dr. Darrigan, thank you so much
Yeah.
for being here. I mean, for me
Yeah.
to be here.
No, thank you.
We don't do a lot on location, but
Yeah.
pardon the audio if something happens. But we did the best possible.
No, yeah.
Our flag kept falling, but
That's okay.
when you got, as I know you stay busy, right?
Yeah.
I know you stay very busy. Even getting here, you were on the phone a few times until you're finally done and able to do
Yeah.
something like this. But the information and everything you provided to us, I hope is very useful. I know it's gonna find. There's no hoping. I know it's gonna find the right person.
Yeah.
Looking for the right message of the things that you said, and it's gonna do it great for them and change their life.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So
If
thank you so
anyone-
much.
Absolutely. No, thank you for what you do and putting these messages out there. And if anyone needs some help, reach out to one of my bars. They can give you my number or something like that. But, nothing is impossible. So whatever you want to accomplish, whatever you want to get over, don't quit. Just find the right people to help you.
Yeah, and without a shadow of a doubt, you definitely are a global Latin factor. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
This was another episode of the Global Latin Factor podcast on location, the Kava Bar Fort Worth. Make sure you check it out. And remember to subscribe right now. Why? You have nothing to lose and so much to gain, like this amazing story about Dr. Darrigan. And remember again, we are just like you. We are people. We are the spice in this melting pot that it is the world. Till next time.
Boricua.